Why do so many people, do you think, play small and settle for average in this life? Do you believe in affirmations as the mindset doctor? Do you think they work, or do you think it's like some voodoo magic and it's like, don't waste your time on that nonsense?
Whatever you're looking to do takes you getting out of your comfort zone. The problem is your nervous system signals that, no, it's danger when you step there. Just stay here. Play small. It's safe. It's comfortable here. I believe there's definitely power in affirmations. I believe most people do them wrong.
All right, Dr. Justin Mosley, the mindset doctor. There he is. Welcome to Persistence Playbook.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very excited for this one. Very excited for this one. And, you know, you've got a really interesting story that we're going to kind of go into as we go along here. But, you know, I kind of want to start with a question that I think about a lot. And I'm assuming as someone that is referred to as the mindset doctor, you probably think about this as well. And it's, you know, why do so many people, do you think, play small and settle for average in this life?
Yeah, well, our nervous systems are designed to keep us safe. So think about our ancestors. We had to worry about when we go outside, is there danger around? And that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to say, hey, it's dangerous when you step outside your comfort zone. Stay here, play small. And it happens whether you want to take a risk in business, whether you want to get a raise, whatever you're looking to do takes you getting out of your comfort zone. The problem is your nervous system signals that, no, it's danger when you step there. Just stay here, play small. It's safe. It's comfortable here. And part of my message that it's been on my heart for a while since my near-death accident back in 2018, I realized if I truly want to step into the calling that is on my life, I need to exchange my comfort for my calling. And I don't think enough people are willing to sacrifice the comfort to go after what they really want. So I think it comes down to comfortable, safe. That's what our nervous system is designed to feel. So a lot of time when we feel uncomfortable, we tell ourselves, oh, this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't right. Maybe this is not the right direction for my life. When in fact, maybe it is. And it's actually signaling, hey, you need to step through this and actually grow to the next level of who you need to become.
I love that. Choose comfort or choose calling. You really can't choose both at the same time. It's just not even possible. I think that's really powerful stuff. And you did mention a near death experience there that kind of, you know, sounds like inspired you to take more action towards your calling and step out of your comfort a little bit. Do you mind if I ask what that near death experience was?
Yeah, so it was a whitewater rafting, and it was just a freak accident. We hit the class 5 rapids, the raft tipped over, and I was sitting in the back of the raft, and I got trapped underneath the rapid itself when we got tossed off, and I just got pushed underwater from the rapid. And I still remember the sound of my helmet scraping down the rocks as I was being pushed under. And the last thing I remember thinking is, I'm not coming back up. And because, hey, they warned us of this at first. Hey, the raft tips over all the time. You got a life jacket. You'll float to the top. You'll get swept down the river. But that didn't happen. And for me, everything went black. And then everything went bright white. And it was the most peaceful, serene feeling. Well, what happened, I had gotten trapped between two rocks, wedged underwater. And I don't know how long that lasted. It felt like an eternity. But I hear this voice that said, wake up. And thankfully I did, because I came back to consciousness and I was trapped underwater, wedged between two rocks. And I tried to push and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing and pushing. And thankfully my adrenaline kicked in. And we've heard stories of like a woman who lifted up a car to save her trapped child. Like that's what it was. It was like this superhuman strength. I was able to break one of the buckles on my life jacket that was trapped underneath one of the rocks, floated to the top, gasped for breath, got swept down the river. And man, at that point I was rocked. And we all question the purpose in life. Like at some point, we're always like, why are we here?
For sure.
But in that moment, I asked a different question. I said, why am I still here? Because things could have been different in that moment. What if I didn't hear wake up? Or what if I wasn't strong enough to break free? So that's when I started questioning, like, why am I still here? And that's a question anybody that's listening to this can ask that question, because life is not guaranteed. You woke up today for a reason. So if you got air in your lungs, your heart is beating right now, ask yourself, why am I still here? Because you woke up today. When you find the reason, everything can change for you. And one of the questions I asked myself was, if it would have ended in that moment, is this the legacy I want to leave? And the answer was no. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize I could have helped more people. I could have made a bigger impact. So that's what still drives me to this day is I know that every single day I have the opportunity to impact people's lives. And that's what drives me. But it all stemmed back to boom. That was a wake up call. Literally in that moment, I heard wake up, but it was a wake up call in that moment, but also a wake up call for my life.
That's pretty wild that you actually heard a voice inside your head that
Yeah.
said "wake up." I mean, you hear that once in a while, and you wonder, did it actually happen like that? Are they really just are they kind of adding that to make the story sound cooler? But I'll tell you what, I completely believe that you heard it.
Yeah. It's one of those things. And I've been asked to describe it before. It wasn't like this booming audible voice. It was like
Yeah.
this inner knowing of just wake up. It's kind of
Pretty
more of like a
wild.
whisper to me. And yeah, thankfully I did, because I was unconscious underwater and came back to consciousness and like, okay,
That's
fight or
pretty
flight
wild.
set in for sure.
That is pretty wild, and I think that is like a kind of an empowering mindset exercise to put yourself through, and think about if for some reason something tragic did happen and my life did end tomorrow, would I be really happy with my legacy? Would I be happy with the impact that I was leaving behind me, or just how I was treating the people around me while I was still here? I think that is a pretty powerful exercise that we can all go through. I think I forget which personal development guru it was, but one of them, I think it might have been the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talked about, and a really effective exercise is just to think about your own funeral and think about your own eulogy. And what would they say about you? Would they call you a person of great character, of great integrity, who gave great service to the world? What is that eulogy going to sound like? And I think that is kind of a powerful way to kind of frame your perspective on what you should be doing with your immediate future. I like that. I like that a lot.
And I love that exercise. It's great. But then I like to go further, because not just the eulogy itself. Okay, everybody has the eulogy. They come to your funeral and then it's done. You're forgotten.
True.
How long can you be remembered? That's really the test for me. Did I offer something to the world that was worth remembering?
Powerful stuff. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Now, obviously, a big part of your journey is public speaking. I think I read that you've given over 1,500 talks in your life and counting. So you're certainly pretty comfortable getting up in front of people and delivering your message. I'm curious, was this something that hit you after this accident that you're like, wait a second, I got to get up there and speak? Or is it something that was kind of always inside of you, and then this accident just kind of gave you the impetus to take action on it?
Yeah, and I just did my second TED Talk, and it was on this conversation.
So cool. Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. I appreciate that. And the reason I did this one, so in 2022, I did a TED Talk about my near-death accident and my experience and lessons that I learned. And at that point, I'd already been speaking a lot, and I started speaking even more. And then people would come up to me and be like, man, that's awesome what you're doing. I wish I could speak, but I'm afraid of it. It just comes so naturally to you. And I was like, no, it didn't. Like, for most of my life, I had a tremendous fear of public speaking. So this last TED Talk, I actually shared that side of how I overcame my fear, because I believe everybody's got a message to share. But for me, forever, I felt inside, like my heart, like, man, I've got this message I want to share, but I was terrified. I was like, no, that's for other people, the people that are confident and they can go out there and they can speak. It's for them, not for me.
Yeah.
And I believed that story for too long. And I shared in my talk, like I traced it back to like second grade, the teacher like calling on students to read. And it gets to me and I started stuttering and fumbling through my words and was so embarrassed. Kids started laughing at me, anchored in a belief that you shouldn't speak up. Nobody wants to hear your story. And fast forward, I got to college and almost failed a speech class because I had a panic attack during my speech. Again, anchored in that belief, public speaking's not for you. You should just give it up. But I got to the point where I looked at people and I looked up to Tony Robbins. I read my first Tony Robbins book when I was 16 because I struggled with low self-esteem and self-confidence. So I started reading Awaken the Giant Within was the first book that I read. And I loved the mindset shift. Like, you don't have to settle for where you are. Like, you control your own destiny. So I looked at people like him. I was like, I love the impact he's able to make. He can just speak on stage and influence people. So I just started diving into learning the psychology of speaking. watching people, studying people, and really having to overcome the mindset that it's not for me. Because again, I believe anybody can speak. Everybody's got a message to share. So I just started getting out there and started doing it, started getting in the reps. And man, yeah, that's how, when we started our practice I'm a chiropractor by trade. When we started our practice, that's how we grew our business. I just got out there almost every day. I just started speaking. I was doing lunch and learns, doing workshops, speaking at churches, schools, all these places, because I knew that it had to be bigger than me. If it was just about me, I would have never got out there and spoke. But I was like, I believe I've got a message that can help people. And that's what I just started getting out there and made it about them and who I could impact. And it helped me overcome the fear. It's one of the things that helped. But man, I just got out there and I just started doing it.
Pretty cool stuff. And it's interesting. I think that you were, already, very successful by any means as a chiropractor. And now, you've kind of started this totally new venture, which I think is pretty inspiring for people. Cause I think there's probably plenty of people out there that are, they started a business or they're in a job and by all means, they're very good and very successful at that job, but there might be a calling inside of their heart to do something else as well. And I think it's a difficult thing to take action towards, especially when you're seeing success already in some other part of your life. And you're like, well, right. I'm doing fine. Like, why the hell do I got to go and do this too? And I'm doing great over here. But I think that the fact that you kept the dream alive and kept it alive and then eventually took action on it is pretty inspiring. Because I think some people might be in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s even, and maybe they're very successful in what they do, but they've had a dream inside of their heart as well to do something else. And there really is no timetable on this. Like, you can start delivering your message at any point in your life. Like, you don't have to do it in your 20s. You don't have to do it in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s. Like, any point in the game, if you've got a message to deliver, you can start today.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about content. Like, you could do like we're doing right now, start a podcast, start putting yourself out on social media. And that's how it started for me. So I had the near-death accident and realized, yeah, I'm helping people. I'm living my purpose. I'm helping people, making a difference as a chiropractor. Near-death accident happens, is like, no, I'm playing way too small. I can impact people all over the world. So that's when I started putting out content on mindset, personal development, leadership, things that helped me become successful. I just wanted to give that to other people. But I had my own limiting beliefs. Like, who's going to listen to me? Is anybody even going to show up?
Sure.
But I just started putting myself out there. And then the first of 2020, I started a Facebook group and it grew to 1,000 people in the first month. So I was like, all right, cool. People are listening. And that led to me hosting retreats and doing masterminds and coaching and all the things. And now, coming full circle, I actually help people become speakers. Helps good speakers become great, because speaking changed my life. It helped generate millions of dollars in one business. And now it's multiple businesses, 6 and 7 figures, all from being able to speak. So like, that's one skill. If you can master that, it can change everything for you. But it would have never happened if I didn't just start putting out content. That's what it all came from.
For sure. Yeah, you got in those content reps and that gave you some confidence in your message. And you're like, wait a second, people are actually showing up for my message right now. Like, maybe I've actually got something to say that people can really use here. And I agree. I mean, if there is one skill to really hone and go after, it is the ability to speak. I love that quote by Jordan Peterson. It's an articulate man is a dangerous man. And I just think that is absolutely the truth. I mean, if you can speak well and you can communicate well and hone all these skills that go into it, I mean, boy, you can really push your message out there and you can have a massive influence in this life. And without that skill, it's very tough. It's almost impossible. Sure. It really is.
There's a couple of things that come up for me there. One is it's a skill you have to develop. It's not natural for most people. And it's funny, a lot of speakers that get paid money to be on stages are actually very introverted and actually struggled with public speaking. They overcame it to become the person they are up there on stage. So put in the reps, learn how to speak is one side of it. And then the second is don't look at the size of the impact. Look at the one person you can impact.
Love that.
So something came up as you were speaking. Like, I had the fortune to be on this guy's podcast. He's now a friend of mine. He gets 50,000 downloads a month to his podcast.
Hell yeah.
Which, as you know, I mean, that's a lot in the podcast world.
That's a lot of downloads. You got to work your way up to that number for sure, brother.
But he did it for the first 9 months. He had like 50 a month. Not 50,000, 50.
Sure, it sounds about right.
Yeah. So for 9 months, he's grinding it out. And he's like, man, I think I'm about to give it up.
Yeah.
And he gets an email from this guy in Japan. And he told him, because of your podcast, I didn't take my own life. And that guy said at that moment, he realized, I don't care if 50 people show up, 1,000 or one person, I'm still going to show up and deliver. And the guy's been blessed. Now he just kept going for years. And now he gets 50,000 downloads, but he never would have impacted the one if he would have given up early and said, oh, only 50 people. And it's like my mom and my family are showing up. Nobody's really listening. No, they're listening. And that's the thing. Just keep showing up, keep putting in the reps, because if there's a message inside of you, it's not just for you, it's for someone else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a powerful mindset shift that can kind of keep people going when maybe they're not seeing the growth they want to see in their podcast or in their social media brands. You know, maybe there's only 50 people listening on a weekly basis, or maybe they're only getting, 500 views on their Instagram reels. But if you actually kind of zoom out and you're like, wait a second, if I was in a room speaking to 50 people, I'd be jacked. I'd be pumped up. I'd be excited to deliver my message to 50 human beings or 500 human beings, if that's the amount of reels views that you're getting. So I think it's kind of important to put these things in perspective. And yes, if there's one person out there that takes that tip you deliver and it makes their life better, then you're having an impact.
Yep. I don't want people to take that lightly. That's huge. I actually talked about this 2 weeks ago. I spoke at an event in Boise, Idaho, and there was about 50 to 60 people in the room. And we were talking about speaking. And I was like, look, I had to get up. I had to travel here. There was a lot of stuff that went into me speaking here to talk to 50 to 60 people. When you guys all have access to your phone right now, and you could shoot a piece of content and reach 50 to 60 people right now. You don't have to have a stage. You don't have to get booked. You don't have to travel somewhere to have access to people. You can have access to people right now on the other side of this, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, podcast, whatever it is. There's people there. They can hear your message, and you can make just as much impact as other people going out there and speaking to different crowds.
So cool, man. And so cool how all this kind of came from a near-death experience, a whitewater rafting accidents. I had a near-death experience when I was in my early 20s, where a friend of mine and I were on our way back from a road trip to Miami. We actually went to see WrestleMania, and we drove straight there from Rhode Island, 26 hours. We saw Ric Flair's last WrestleMania, so it was incredible, clearly. Yeah. I'm a big Ric Flair fan. I've actually got him over my left shoulder here. Nice. And then we tried to drive back 26 straight hours without any breaks, and my friend fell asleep at the wheel. God bless him. And I saw him, and I shook his arm, and he woke up and, panicked and cut the wheel. And we flipped 2.5 times, going about 80 miles per hour in the center of the highway. And, God was with us that day. We both had our seatbelts on, and, luckily escaped with a couple nicks and bruises. And, we were 22. So I think I got, introspective and probably asked myself why I was still here for a little bit, but then we probably went to the bar and just partied and forgot about it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So I think maybe that car crash could have been more impactful for me if it happened in my late 20s or 30s, but it's okay. Either way, I'm just happy I'm still here.
Right. And that's the thing. No matter what point, you can always go back to that and be like, man, that could have ended right then. For sure. It does give you that different perspective on life, for sure. But really my message to people, and the same thing to your point, is you don't have to have a car wreck. You don't have to have a near-death accident. You don't have to have a rock bottom moment. That's usually when people hit and they need to change. Mm-hmm. You can change right now in this instant. That's where you ask yourself the questions like, why am I still here? Like, what's the purpose of all of this? Start getting cleared now before something has to happen to make you change.
For sure. And I love how you're talking about, some questions to ask yourself, to kind of, inspire some action. And I'm curious, as the mindset doctor, are there any questions or mantras that you ask yourself on a regular basis to kind of get yourself in a powerful mindset?
One of the hardest questions for people to answer is, what do you want?
For sure.
Most of the time when I ask people what they want, they tell me all the things they don't want.
Right.
I don't want my schedule to look like this. I don't want this, and this, but they're not very clear on what they want. So first off, just get really clear. Get some time alone with yourself and think, what do I want? And then the most powerful question after that is, who do I need to become in order to have that?
Love that.
Because that's the biggest question. It's always, life is about growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. So if we set the goals, we figure out what we want, well, we have to become a different person. The same person you are now is not going to achieve your goals and dreams. You would already have them. So set your goals and dreams big enough, but then figure out who you have to become to have those. And set out every single day to become that person. And along the way, boom, those are going to intersect, and you're going to hit those goals and dreams, and you're actually going to set new ones, and they're going to get even bigger.
Very cool. And I totally agree. I think exactly step one for anyone is just have some clarity on where you want to be 5 years from now. Maybe for you, it's like, speaking in front of Giant Stadium or something like that.
Right.
And then get clear on what are the character traits that I need to have to actually make that happen. A man of action, a man of integrity, a man of courage, someone that makes a plan and sticks to it every single day. And then that gives you just a little bit more clarity on exactly the action you need to be taking on a daily basis. Curious, do you believe in affirmations as the mindset doctor? Do you think they work, or do you think it's like some voodoo magic and it's like, don't waste your time on that nonsense?
So yes and no. I believe there's definitely power in affirmations. I believe most people do them wrong. Most people will think, oh, I've heard this thing, affirmations. Maybe I Google the top 10 affirmations I should say, and they just rattle off somebody's affirmations.
I own a beach house in Newport, Rhode Island. I am 6'5" with washboard abs. I'm guessing that's not the way to do it.
Correct. Yeah, because there's no feeling or emotion tied to it. Right. And emotion is the secret. So you have to actually feel. It's got to be something you want. That's where clarity comes in. It's something you want, and then you can actually visually see yourself becoming. Then you affirm as if it's already happened. And then your energy, you got to feel the feeling of what it's like. And I like fast forwarding it from the end, living from the end. Like you mentioned, if it's speaking in stadiums full of people, it's seeing yourself being on that stage. For me, I did this before I got my first TED Talk. I took it from a bucket list idea of, that would be cool to do that one day, to, no, I'm a TEDx speaker. And I saw myself on that red circle with the audience, the lights, all the things. I saw it in my mind first, and then I became it, and then it became a reality. So you have to use your senses, though. The more you get your senses involved, the more powerful the affirmation becomes. Because if you're not feeling it, you're not going to change anything. Because the whole point of, people talk about morning routines, evening routines, all these different things. The whole point is to change your physiology, to change your body, to actually take a different action. So if you can move yourself emotionally with the affirmations, that's when they can actually work. And along this topic, I think a morning routine is great. I believe the morning routine sets up your day.
Sure.
It's your evening routine that sets up your life.
I'm into that.
Because what you put into your mind before you fall asleep, your subconscious mind actually starts to process that. And you can actually tap into your subconscious mind. And I've actually got a free download of this called my baseball technique, where you can actually program your subconscious mind to start manifesting things into your life. And manifesting becomes this woo-woo word. Really, it's not. It's starting to focus in and hone in your subconscious mind, particularly your reticular activating system. And when you can start to dial that in the baseball technique, you start manifesting these baseballs. Baseballs start showing up in your life. And you're like, why is this even happening? And the point of that being, if you can make that happen, imagine what else you can attract into your life.
100%.
It takes it from this woo-woo concept to, no, this stuff is real. The science backs this up, and you can actually control your mind. But it happens, okay, what are you putting into your mind before you fall asleep?
I love it. Reticular activating system. I got to put that on a t-shirt, man. That's a tongue twister right there. That's that's like 10 syllables you're firing off. That's, I love it. So listen, I totally agree. Just to kind of rewind a little bit with the affirmations. I think when I've seen affirmations work for me in my life, it's been when I have said them out loud with emotion, sometimes playing like a song in the background that kind of inspires some emotion inside of me, helps me, I believe, with the affirmations. Yep. I like to attach my affirmations a lot to character. Like, I am a man of courage. I am a man of action. When I make a plan, I follow through. Of course, I've got like a long-term vision for my life written out, like where I want to be in 5 years. But for me, I find the most powerful affirmations for me are kind of character-based affirmations. And I find when I say them out loud and I say them passionately on a regular basis, I do see those qualities show up in my life, whether that's being decisive or being hardworking. The more I say I am a hard worker, the more I say I am a man of action, slowly but surely you do start to see yourself kind of take on those qualities. And then there is just something to it. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And it's important to point out, because at first when people are doing it and you say, yes, I'm a man of action, your mind's going to tell you, no, you're not.
Right.
Yesterday you did this and you just watched Netflix and you played video games, whatever it is. Like, but like you said, the more you say it, the more you start to believe it. The more you
I
start to
agree.
believe it, the more you start to become it. And you become that man of action.
With
You start
emotion.
making better choices. You see this a lot of times in fitness. And when you start affirming that you make healthy choices, then all of a sudden, when somebody brings in the pizza, you're like, you know what? I'm a person who makes healthy choices. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat this over here. So the more you can start affirming it, I like to say you have to speak louder than the voices in your head, because there's already a tape playing, whether you hear it or not. It's an underlying subconscious thing. That's where affirmations can override the voices that are already there.
Love that. And I think that I read a book called The Art of Impossible recently, and there was some science in there that every time you have a negative thought, some negative self-talk, it actually takes 3 affirmations, positive thoughts, to counteract that negative thought. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And we can't control all of our thoughts. Like, the mind is going to keep yapping whether we want to or not, but we can listen to the mind. And if we have a negative thought, then we just got to counteract that negative thought with 3 or 4 positive thoughts, or maybe just remind yourself of something you've done in the past that proves to yourself that you encompass these qualities that you want to have. Like, let's say before a speech, if you're trying to I am a great public speaker. I am a great public speaker. Don't just say that. Remind yourself of a speech you killed, maybe a best man speech that you absolutely murdered at a wedding last year. Like, remind yourself of those real events in your life that speak towards the quality that you want in this present moment.
Yeah. And that's a great point. It's making your own highlight reel. So have your own index of the things that you did succeed at, the times that you were a man of action, the times when you were made a choice of like, you know what, I'm not going to be lazy here. I'm actually going to take action and do this. Like, have that Rolodex of, you can prove to yourself, no, this is who I am.
So I don't want to skim over something you talked about there a little bit ago. And it's about, we talked about, of course, the importance of a morning routine. And, some people are very into the morning routine. Some people, like Alex Hormozy, say you should just get up and start working right away at 5 a.m. For myself, I believe in a morning routine. I know if I get up and I work out and I meditate, it's kind of like putting my armor on, and I'm just going to have a much more productive day. I don't wake up at 5 a.m. ready to work. I know some people do. God bless them. I don't think I'm not wired that way. Sometimes I wish I was, but I got to get up. I got to have a cup of tea. I got to work out, do some cardio, and then I'm ready to go. But you touched on a nighttime routine that you think really sets up your next day. I'm curious kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. So, and this kind of is similar to a morning routine. I think you got to find what works for you, because some people, I interviewed a guy named Craig Ballantyne, and he's like the
I know Craig.
Millionaire mentor. And he talks about,
Craig's great.
Yeah. He talks about a morning routine is like a perverse form of procrastination.
Yes. He's one of the anti.
He ends up like, people have a 3-hour morning routine to try to get themselves ready to work. He's like, no, just get up and work and then do your stuff. So for him, that works. Now, for some people, maybe it's, you don't need to meditate for an hour. Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's read 2 pages instead of 10 pages. Just find what works with you. Main thing is, what can you be consistent at?
Hell yeah, consistency.
And so consistency is key. And then what actually changes you? Does the things that you're saying to yourself, do you actually feel better when I say them? When I read this book, do I get motivated and inspired, or do I feel like I'm just checking it off of the list? Right. This is the big thing with gratitude. They do the same thing. They like, oh, I did the 5 things I'm grateful for, instead of actually feeling grateful and stop and pause and like, why am I thankful for that? And to truly feel it. So shifting to the evening routine, I'll give you like the most simple thing to do is I help people create a scene before you fall asleep.
Cool.
So for me, it was a scene of before I did my first TED Talk. In my mind, I'm already affirming I am a TEDx speaker. Not I'm going to be. I am. It's already done. And then I fall asleep with this visualization that I was standing on that red circle, that I feel the heat of the lights. I can hear the buzz of the microphone as I'm speaking. As I'm looking out, I can just see people through the crowd, and they're nodding when I'm nodding. And it was so cool. When it actually happened, the exact same happened that was the thing that I fell asleep with. I could feel the heat of the lights. I heard the buzz of the microphone. I saw them nodding. It was like this out-of-body experience that I'd been there before. It had already happened. And what's cool about it, like this used to be like woo-woo stuff, affirmations, visualization.
Totally woo-woo.
Science is catching up with this. Yeah. And one of my favorite studies I heard from Dr. Joe Dispenza, they took people that couldn't play piano. And they taught them one-handed piano exercises. So one group, they had said, play these exercises every single day. For the next group, you're not going to touch a piano, but you're going to vividly imagine playing these exercises. So But that's the key. Vividly imagine, not just think
Sure.
about it, not just see it on a screen, but put your body in there as if you're physically doing it. And they actually did functional MRIs of their brain. And the exact same parts of the brain were firing in the people physically playing and the people only vividly imagining it. And at the end of that study, they got the exact same proficiency. People that played every day versus not even touching a piano got just as good. That's the power of the mind.
That is actually crazy.
You can believe it. And that's one of the hacks that I have for public speaking.
Yeah.
Because one of my mentors, he's a Hall of Fame speaker. And his mentor told him the key to being a great speaker is 1,000 speeches.
Love that.
And there's power to that. You get out there and get the reps.
Yeah.
But what if you hacked that? You can give 1,000 speeches in your mind a whole lot easier than having to go out there and set up 1,000 different speaking events.
Very cool.
I still think you should go out there and speak.
Right.
But I also think that you should physically do it in your mind over and over until you believe that you're a confident speaker. And then it becomes like riding a bike. Once you learn how to do it, you just don't forget how to do it. Well, the same thing, the more reps you get, even in your own mind, you start to become confident. And you can use that for speaking. You can use that communicating with your spouse. You can use that in any area of your life. But the visualization is powerful. So create a scene, whether it's a goal you want to hit, whether it's a skill you want to learn, have a scene before you fall asleep that you're already a master of that.
For sure.
And watch what happens. You'll start to prime your reticular activating system. You'll start to get opportunities. You'll start to see things around you that you hadn't seen before because you start to open up to possibility.
And I think I think a lot of people think about visualization and they're maybe not even against it. They're open to it and they believe in the concept, but they're like, where the hell do I fit that into my day? Do I close my eyes when I'm eating my salad at Panera and like visualize myself on stage? Like it's a tough thing, I think, to kind of fit into your day, but I do think while you're laying in bed and your eyes are closed anyway, like there's the time slot that anyone can do this on a daily basis.
Yeah. And it's hard, whether it's meditation, visualization, because you can't just feel different immediately. You can't just meditate and all of a sudden I made an extra $10,000. That's just not how it works.
No, that'd be cool.
So, but I can go to the gym and I can feel different. Yeah, I can go to the gym and I can feel a pump. So I physically feel it. So it's different with this. You have to remind yourself the power of it. Now, there is some really cool times, and it has to do with the brain science of it. As you're falling asleep, most of our day we spend in high beta brain waves. When we're just go, trying to figure things out, get stuff done.
Sure.
As we're falling asleep, we go from beta into alpha, into theta, into delta. So our brain waves are dropping. And if we do a visualization while we're dropping in to alpha, then to beta, into theta, that point where you start to feel groggy, that's a powerful time you can tap into your subconscious mind. So the same thing happens when you wake up. When you first wake up and you're still groggy and not ready to get out of bed, that's a perfect time to do a visualization, do some affirmations, because you're tapping into your subconscious mind before, and that's why you shouldn't grab your phone at first. Before you start grabbing your phone and checking emails or social media, it shifts you quickly back into that beta, just go, and you miss out on using those brain waves and tapping into your subconscious mind.
That's pretty interesting. So yeah, I love when guys can talk brainwaves. By the way, I always respect that. I'm not one of those guys yet, but whenever I have someone on the podcast that starts talking brainwaves, I'm like, that's sick. But I think that's like super interesting, right? It's like so many of us turn over, we get our phone, we just start doom scrolling through TikTok the second we wake up, and I'll go through phases where I leave my phone in the office for the first hour of the day, and then I'll go through phases where I fall into looking at email and Instagram the second I wake up. So I'm certainly not perfect in this regard, but I think it's interesting that our brain is almost most malleable in those early morning hours or right before we go to sleep. And if we are going to visualize, if we're going to do those affirmations, that's probably the most effective time that we can implement them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get to take advantage of what's already happening. Because people they studied monks. What they're trying to do is get their brain waves into these certain states where they can, the middle of the day, they can go into theta. Well, we're already doing it. We don't have to spend years meditating to figure that out. Just take advantage of it as it's happening naturally, as we're falling asleep and we're going into those brain waves. Do your meditation then, or visualization.
That's super interesting stuff there. I love that. So I'm just kind of curious, on a personal level, like what does your average day look like these days, Justin?
Oh, it's different. I've been traveling a lot lately because I speak a lot. So, But yeah, it's bookend by the morning and evening routine. And my morning routine is fairly simple now. It's easy. Just get up, gratitude is huge. So I think everybody should just do gratitude, at least try it for 30 days.
Yeah.
Not a check off, oh, I did it. It's something on my list of things to do.
Feel it.
Truly feeling grateful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So gratitude. And it's one of the things I don't think people should set up. I need to meditate. I need to read. I need to do all these things to have it done. I think if I feel grateful and do some affirmations, that's all I need.
Love it.
Anything above that is just a bonus.
So simple.
So reading all the other things that I can do, but no, feeling grateful, affirmations, I'm ready to go. But for some people, they're not ready to go yet. Like I've been doing this for years, so I can quickly shift my energy. So for some people, you may need a little bit more. But for me, that's all I need. And then the end is just gratitude again, and then a scene, whatever I'm trying to visualize next. And I'll give you a real example. There's some stuff I'm doing. There's the MMA fighter, Michael Chandler. And there's some things that I'm doing with him. So I started visualizing the things that I'm going to be doing with him.
Sure.
And all of a sudden I just got invited to Vegas with a friend of mine who's friends with him to go like behind the scenes of the UFC fight next weekend. And it's like, this thing just happens when you start putting things into your mind, opportunities start happening and these invites. Who would ever thought I'd be going with a MMA fighter behind the scenes? He's getting us into this VIP things at this MMA fight. I never would have had access to that if I were just going through the routine of life, just wake up, do this, do that. I know you need to just figure out, what do you want? Start putting things into your mind, and the subconscious mind starts to help you figure out how to make it happen.
That's pretty cool. And that is super simple, right? Anyone can have a little gratitude in their minds, in their hearts, do a few affirmations right when they wake up, and do a little gratitude before bed, and then visualize the future that you want. I mean, that is just so implementable. I mean, no one can say they don't have enough time for that.
And you have nothing to lose, so why not at least try it?
Right. Why not give it a shot? That's pretty interesting. So that's pretty cool that you're working with like professional athletes and professional fighters. And, you would think that someone that is competing at that level would have like the mindset thing figured out, right? But obviously when you get to that level, everyone's kind of got the mindset thing figured out. So you have to really find the details to kind of rise above the competition. So when you're working with like pro athletes and things of that nature, like what are like the little tweaks that you find yourself having to make in their mindset? Is it visualization? Is it mantras? Is it just being more present to the moment? Like, well, what are those little tweaks you find yourself having to make?
Well, and a lot of times with the high-end athletes, they have a high level of mindset. So it is just a little tweak at that point. But the cool thing that's came full circle for me is I'm working with a lot of celebrities, professional athletes, ex-athletes that are now going into the speaking world. So teaching them how to speak. So they've mastered their thing, whether it's sports, fitness, whatever they do, acting, which actors are better. Like, a lot of actors can't speak in public because they just memorize their thing. Like, they
pretty
just
interesting.
be on camera here. Yeah. But it doesn't translate to getting on stage or actually how to tell their own story, like how to tell their story in a way that moves other people.
Sure.
So that's what I get to work with them, because they have the opportunity. They've got the audience, they've got the people to impact. They just need to craft a signature story and be able to get out there and start telling their message better. So I love working with people like that because they are so committed. They are so disciplined to be at the top of their game and whatever their thing was. They want to do the same thing as far as speaking goes. So I get to help them tweak their speaking so they can just go out there and perform at a high level with that. It's
pretty interesting, right? You would think an actor could just go up there and just slam a speech out of the ballpark, but it really is two totally different, not totally different, but two different skill sets for sure. Maybe they overlap a little bit, but not necessarily directly over the other. So let's say, I'm going to give a speech in a week. If you had to only give me 3 keys to kind of keep my mind focused on as I prepare for and give this speech, what would those 3 keys be?
I would start with, it's not about you. So a lot of times we get in our own heads and I hope people will go watch my TED Talk, because I talked about this in my TED Talk. You can just find it on YouTube, Justin Mosley. But
it's a great talk, by the way. Everyone should get out there and watch it. It's really tremendous.
Appreciate that.
You did a great job. And I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. I mean, Who doesn't have a fear of public speaking? The greatest speaker on the planet at one point was scared of getting up and giving a talk, right? They say it's like, people are more scared of that than death, statistically.
Right, yeah.
So it's a very relatable speech. And I think that you really kind of walk through it in a really effective way. So definitely everyone out there, give that a listen, guys.
Appreciate that. And that's why it's really on my heart, because I do think this has the power to change lives. And it already has. I get messages all the time from people that have watched it, which I really appreciate. But one of the biggest things is it's not about you.
Right.
Because we get nervous because we're thinking about us.
100%.
What if they don't like the way I sound? Most people don't even like the sound of their own voice. Mm-hmm. So that comes into their own head. So there's actors, there's professionals that don't like the sound of their own voice. So you're not alone if you feel like that.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But I did too. Like when I first started shooting content and then I started hearing myself back, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that.
Right.
But it's just part of it. It's just because we sound different in our head than we do actually projecting back to us. But that gets in our head. The sound of our voice, the way we're looking. What if we say the wrong thing? All that stuff gets in our head. Versus if you shift it, say, no, what's in it for them? What if there's one thing that I give them that can completely change their life today? And when you start focusing on them instead of you, that nervousness goes away.
That is such a powerful mindset shift, right? Is to just really just think about the audience, right? Like I am giving them service. What are they going to get out of this? Not about speaking charismatically and being the star and making this about me. And I hope people think I'm cool after this. Like, no, like how can I impact that one person in the audience and really change their life for the better? I love that. That is awesome stuff.
Yeah. And then another one for the people like, well, I don't really know if I have a message to share. I'll share what I shared in the talk, a quote from my friend, Rory Vaden. He says, you are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were.
So good.
Because there's things you've been through in your life. There's things you went through, obstacles you've overcome, challenges you've faced. Whatever you learned from those, there's somebody right now going through it that you can speak to them and help them through it. Whether it's shooting a video that's just content or getting on a stage and actually sharing your message, you can be an example for those people that are going through what you went through in the past. So whatever they go through your life and think of what are the things that I went through? Because a lot of times we take them for granted.
Sure.
And so just go through what happened in life. Think about your car accident. Like that stuff, you have stories and lessons that you can get from those. Even if you didn't process it at the time, it's like, no, I can go back and be like, man, I actually learned this, this, and this from that. And you can give that to someone else. So that would be the second thing. And then one of my favorites is you can transform your fear into excitement.
Oh, that's good stuff.
So I shared about how I looked up, okay, what are the biggest things that happen when you're afraid to speak? Okay, sweaty hands, you're nervous, you're shaky, your chest tightens up, your muscles stiffen. Like all these things happen when you get nervous. But then I was like, when else does that happen? It happens when you get really excited about something.
Right. Same
you
conditions.
You get amped up. You get shaky. Yeah, your voice can shake. Like you could get tight, but it's because you're excited about what's about to happen. A good example, I met a friend now that he got to play in the Super Bowl. And I asked him about that a while back. I was like, did you get nervous going into there? And he was like, heck no, man. I was so pumped up. I'm so excited to just get out there. It's the biggest thing in our life to go do this. And I was like, yes, that's a great shift. Like, cause you could feel those feelings and say, no, I'm nervous. I'm afraid. Remember when I spoke before and I didn't do well? It's like, no, I can take those same feelings that I'm feeling and shift it to, man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm about to go out there and change someone's life today. And that's what really it goes back to those affirmations. I change what the feeling means to me.
So cool.
Then I get up there and I really am excited because I'm excited. I know at least one person going to take what I have to say and they're going to change their life.
I love that.
Transform your fear into excitement.
It really is interesting, right? Because physiologically, it's a very similar sensation that you feel inside of your body. And if you can just kind of mentally reframe that and relabel that from fear to excitement, it can completely transform the experience for you. I think that is like such a powerful mindset shift that you can use not just for public speaking, but for anything in life. Yeah. And whenever you're feeling that fear, I think it always helps to not ignore the fear, but to really feel it, feel that sensation inside of your gut, inside of your sternum there. And by just feeling it, it kind of makes it dissipate a little bit. It creates enough space so that you can then take the action that you want to, but not by just feeling it, but also like what you said, reframing it in your own mind and being like, I'm excited. This feeling inside of my heart right now is excitement. Can't wait to get out there and rock this speech. That's pretty good stuff. I think that is a really powerful shift.
And a great question you can ask yourself, because it's perfect. Like you can use this for anything.
Anything.
Feeling a feeling, nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So a great question to ask yourself is, what could this mean? So if I started feeling what I would think is nervous energy, what could this mean? Well, I could be nervous. I could be afraid to get up here. But then I keep asking further, what else could this mean? Well, it could be that I'm excited. So then I get to choose what meaning I label. Am I going to label this as nervousness and fear?
Right.
Or am I going to label this as excitement and positive energy? So, but the problem is we normally don't take the time to actually process and say, what does this mean?
Never.
It just comes up and we're so conditioned to, the meanings of the past versus no, I can shift the meaning into something new for the future.
Powerful questions that we can ask to ourselves internally and totally change ourselves and our experience as it relates to fear. Justin, dude, thank you for being with us today. Awesome conversation, brother.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of fun, man. Thanks for having me on.
Where can everyone keep up with you, and what do you got going on these days?
Yeah, drjustinmosley.com or drjustinmosley/links. I've got free resources. My baseball technique was the mindset thing to actually prime your subconscious mind before you fall asleep. I've got how to overcome speaking anxiety. I've got a free download for that as well. A life purpose meditation. There's different things that I give away for free. And then follow me on Instagram at Dr. Justin Mosley. A lot of my speaking. I'm going to be putting out a lot more content on how to overcome speaking anxiety or just become a better speaker. So stay tuned there.
Get in there, guys. drjustinmosley.com. Unfortunately, brettmcdermott.com is taken. I've been trying to buy it off of this guy for years. He doesn't even use it. It reroutes to his LinkedIn page. It kills me. But and definitely give Justin a follow on Instagram. I mean, he's got 170,000 followers for a reason. His content is fire and it's really valuable. Justin, thank you for being here. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. This has been Persistence Playbook, and this is your weekly reminder that you will feel resistance to the work that you know you should be doing this week. In those moments, lean into your why and take action anyway. We'll catch you next week, guys.